Doctors told me I'd be in a wheelchair by the time I hit 80. They said arthritis, age, and wear and tear would win. But here I am, 93, walking 5 miles a day and dancing with my great-grandkids. Want to know how I turned their prediction into my motivation? Stick with me, because what I discovered might just change how you age. Forever. At 79, I walked into the doctor's office with a slight limp and a dull ache in both knees. Nothing serious, just a little stiffness after gardening. But after some scans and a long silence, the doctor leaned in and said something that would stay with me forever. Your joints are breaking down faster than we expected. If things keep progressing this way, you'll likely need a wheelchair by 80. I laughed at first, thought it was an overreaction. But that night, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at my shoes, and I couldn't bring myself to put them on. Not because I couldn't reach them, but because something else hit me harder than any diagnosis ever could. It was the idea that my independence, the life I'd built step by step, could be taken from me. Not in a crash, not all at once, but quietly, through inaction. That night I made a promise. I would not accept that outcome. I didn't know how I'd do it yet, but I knew one thing. If my body had the power to break down, then surely it had the power to rebuild. And that's where everything started to shift. The next morning, instead of rolling over in bed and groaning about my knees, I did something strange. I stood up, walked to the mirror, and said out loud, "We're not done yet." It wasn't about denial. It was about decision. You see, I started researching everything I could about aging joints, muscle loss, inflammation, and circulation. And what I found shocked me. The things stealing our mobility after 60, they're not always visible. Sometimes it's not just the fall that breaks you. It's the decades of tiny habits that weaken your frame without you ever noticing, like skipping protein at breakfast, sitting too long, drinking too little water, believing pain is just part of aging. I started questioning all of it. And that's when I began making changes. Not massive ones. I didn't join a gym or run marathons. I started by swapping my usual toast and jam for 2 scrambled eggs and a bowl of blueberries. I drank a full glass of water before coffee. I stood up every 30 minutes, even if it was just to march in place during commercials. I stretched my calves while brushing my teeth. Tiny changes, repeated daily. After a week, I could feel it. The fog lifted. My joints weren't magically fixed, but they felt less angry. After a month, I was walking further without pain. After 3 months, I noticed something strange. I wasn't thinking about my knees anymore. I was thinking about my next walk, my next garden bed, my next adventure. And here's the part no one tells you. The body, even at 80 or 90, is waiting for you to show it some respect. It doesn't need youth. It needs nutrients, movement, rest, and a mindset that says, let's try again. People ask me now, what was the secret? It wasn't one thing. It was 1,000 little ones stacked like bricks, each one building strength, stability, and confidence. And if you're wondering if you're too far gone, let me say this. The moment you believe change is possible, the healing begins. Because you don't need to run marathons. You just need to move with purpose, eat with intention, and stop accepting pain as your baseline. Your future mobility isn't written in stone. And if someone told you otherwise, maybe they just didn't know what your body is capable of. But I do. I didn't wake up one morning and suddenly start walking 5 miles. It happened inch by inch, breath by breath, habit by habit. And it all began with the way I approached my mornings. The first shift, I stopped letting the news tell me how to feel. Instead of reaching for the remote or my phone, I reached for water. Not coffee, not orange juice, just water. Room temperature, 10 ounces. Why? Because overnight your body becomes mildly dehydrated, especially after 60. And thick blood is the enemy of strong circulation. Next came breakfast. I used to think toast and jam or a bowl of cereal was light and easy. Turns out it was also feeding inflammation, blood sugar crashes, and joint stiffness. So I swapped it. Now I eat eggs, boiled, scrambled, doesn't matter, along with greens, berries, and a little olive oil. It's not trendy. It's just fuel that works. Then I move. And I don't mean a full workout. I start by walking through my hallway, back and forth, swinging my arms, rolling my ankles. If I feel stiff, I stretch my calves against the wall. I twist gently at the waist. Nothing fancy. Just waking up the parts of me that might have fallen asleep in the night. Because here's what no one tells you. At 80 or 90, your body isn't fragile. It's adaptive. Give it consistent signals, and it will surprise you. By mid-morning, I aim to get outside. I don't wait for perfect weather. If it's cold, I wear a coat. If it's hot, I walk in shade. Even if it's only 10 minutes, I move my body under the sky. Not for exercise, for dignity, for connection, for blood flow. I used to think 5 miles a day was impossible. But I didn't start there. I started with half a block. I counted lampposts. I celebrated every step like it was a victory, because it was. And food, I keep it simple. Lunch is usually a protein like salmon, chicken, or lentils, paired with vegetables and olive oil. I avoid anything that comes in a crinkly wrapper or needs to be zapped. Processed food might save you time now, but it steals your strength over time. In the afternoons, I rest, but not on the couch for hours. I read, I stretch, I sip tea, and before dinner, I move again. Just a stroll, just a few more steps, enough to keep my blood flowing and my joints from locking up. Dinner is early, always before 6. Why? Because your body needs time to digest before bed, and digestion is no friend to deep sleep. A heavy dinner late at night doesn't just disturb rest. It increases inflammation and raises your stroke risk overnight. I learned that the hard way. Never again. Evenings are quiet. I stretch. I breathe. I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. Even if it's just, my knees didn't ache today. Or, I got to smell fresh air. And here's something powerful. I stopped telling myself I was too old to do things. That phrase? It's poison. I replaced it with this one. Let's see what happens. Because every time I said, let's see what happens, I gave my body permission to prove me wrong. Now I walk 5 miles a day. Not to break a record, but because I can. Because I fought for it. Because I showed up when it was uncomfortable. And now, walking isn't exercise. It's freedom. And freedom is earned, one choice at a time. People often ask me, what did you start doing to stay this strong at 93? But I tell them the real question should be, what did I stop doing? Because sometimes the key to healing isn't adding more. It's subtracting the things that quietly break you down. The first thing I gave up? Sitting still for more than 30 minutes. Before, I'd plop into my recliner after lunch and not move for hours. I thought I was just resting. But what I was really doing was allowing my circulation to slow, my muscles to tighten, and my energy to drain away without a fight. Now, I treat stillness like sugar. A little won't hurt, but too much will rob you blind. I set a timer on my phone. Every 30 minutes, I stand up, stretch, or pace the room. Even if it's just for 60 seconds, it matters. You don't need a gym to protect your mobility. You need movement, and you need it often. The second thing I quit was subtle, but life-changing. I stopped eating like I was 40. For decades, I thought I was eating healthy, low-fat yogurt, whole grain toast, a banana. But I didn't realize those foods were spiking my blood sugar and triggering inflammation, the very inflammation that stiffened my knees and clouded my brain. Now I eat like someone who respects their age, with protein, healthy fats, and slow-burning carbs that actually fuel repair instead of inflammation. Breakfast isn't about taste anymore. It's about performance. And the third thing? This one might surprise you. I stopped accepting pain as normal. I used to believe that aching joints, poor sleep, and brain fog were just part of getting older. And once you believe that, you stop trying to change it. That belief alone will age you faster than time ever could. So I changed my relationship with pain. I started seeing it as information, not a punishment. If my knees hurt after a walk, I iced them, elevated them, and stretched. If my sleep was off, I looked at what I ate, how I moved, when I rested. I became curious instead of defeated. And slowly, that curiosity turned into clarity. That clarity became consistency. And consistency? That's where the magic is. Here's the truth most people never hear. You are not broken. You are simply out of rhythm. Once I stopped sitting too long, stopped eating for the body I used to have, and stopped believing pain was my permanent condition, I felt decades younger. And no, the changes weren't instant. There were mornings I didn't want to move. Nights I missed my old snacks. Days I wondered if it was even worth it. But every time I took a step, drank a glass of water, said no to a sugary snack, or chose to stand when I could have sat, I was rewriting the story doctors told me years ago. Because I was supposed to be in a wheelchair by now. But I'm walking 5 miles a day, and I've still got plans to dance at my great-granddaughter's wedding next spring. That's not luck, that's choice. And every choice you make, today, tomorrow, this week, is either stealing your strength or stacking it. You get to decide. When people hear I'm 93 and still walking 5 miles a day, the first thing they ask is, what supplements are you taking? But here's the truth. It's not a pill. It's a plate. Every meal I eat is a choice, not just for energy, but for clarity, mobility, and peace of mind. So let me walk you through exactly what I eat in a typical day, and more importantly, why I eat it. Breakfast, the anti-inflammatory power. I used to eat cereal or toast, something light, quick, sweet. But what I didn't know was that those sugary carbs were spiking my blood sugar, igniting inflammation, and setting my joints up to ache by mid-morning. Now, I start with 2 eggs, sometimes scrambled, sometimes boiled. They're packed with protein and choline, which supports memory. I add a small handful of sautéed spinach or kale, drizzled with olive oil. That healthy fat doesn't just taste good, it lubricates my joints and supports my brain. And I always include a small bowl of berries, blueberries or blackberries if I can get them. They're loaded with antioxidants that fight free radicals and protect brain cells. No juice, no sugar, just clean, nourishing food. I wash it down with warm water and a squeeze of lemon. It wakes up my digestion and hydrates my body from the inside out. Lunch, circulation and joint support on a plate midday. I aim for balance. A palm-sized portion of wild-caught salmon or grilled chicken. Protein helps preserve muscle, which is the real fountain of youth. I pair it with a big salad, mixed greens, beets, cucumbers, avocado, and dress it with extra virgin olive oil, lemon, and a pinch of turmeric. I'll often add quinoa or lentils for fiber and steady energy. No white bread, no processed cheese, and definitely no deli meats. These foods are not just anti-inflammatory, they're anti-wheelchair. They keep my muscles strong, my arteries clear, and my joints from locking up. Afternoon snack. Fuel, not filler. Old me would reach for crackers or a healthy granola bar, loaded with hidden sugars and oils. New me, a small handful of walnuts or almonds, maybe a sliced apple with a little cinnamon, sometimes a few slices of cucumber and hummus. Real food, nothing fancy. You don't need a snack that's flashy. You need one that fights inflammation and feeds your blood flow. Dinner, light, early, and easy to digest. I eat dinner before 6. That one change alone improved my sleep, cleared my brain fog, and helped my legs feel less swollen in the mornings. Dinner is often a vegetable-based soup with lentils, sweet potatoes, carrots, and garlic, or a stir-fry with broccoli, bok choy, tofu, and ginger. If I want something simple, I make a soft-boiled egg with roasted vegetables. No dessert, just herbal tea and gratitude, because your body is trying to heal at night, and heavy meals get in the way of that repair. Eating early lets my brain do what it's meant to do while I sleep. Reset, restore, and rebuild. Hydration? All day long. I aim for 6 to 8 glasses of water, minimum. I sip between meals, not during. I add lemon or mint to keep it interesting. And I follow one simple rule. For every cup of coffee or tea, I drink a full glass of water. Because dehydration is the fastest way to feel older than you are. Supplements? Sure. But They're not the hero. I take turmeric for inflammation, magnesium for sleep, and vitamin D for bone health, but I don't rely on them. They're the backup singers. The food is the lead. Here's what I want you to hear. You don't have to eat like a rabbit. You don't have to go vegan. You don't need protein shakes or powders or pills. You just need food that loves you back. If a meal leaves you tired, bloated, or foggy, it's not for you. If it leaves you energized, light, and clear, it's medicine. Because food is either your fastest way to pain or your most powerful path to freedom. And at 93, I don't have time for food that steals my steps. Before I was walking 5 miles a day, I was struggling to get down the stairs without holding onto the railing. My legs didn't feel like mine anymore. They were stiff, slow, heavy. I'd wake up in the morning and sit on the edge of my bed, waiting for my knees to cooperate, waiting for my body to agree to the day. Until one morning I asked myself, what if I stopped waiting? That's when I created what I now call my 7-minute movement ritual. It isn't fancy. It doesn't involve a yoga mat, resistance bands, or equipment. But it changed my legs, my balance, and my life. It starts the moment I get out of bed. I take 10 deep breaths, standing tall, not for flexibility, but for focus. Because when you breathe deeply, you're telling your nervous system, we're safe, we're moving, let's go. Then I start my march. I lift one knee, then the other, slowly, with purpose. I do this for about 60 seconds, and I don't care how silly it looks. This motion wakes up the hip flexors, strengthens the lower abs, and improves circulation through the entire lower body. Next, I hold onto the back of a chair and do slow calf raises. Up, pause, down, up, pause, down. I used to think calves didn't matter, but they're your circulatory pumps. If you want blood to return to your heart, if you want energy to reach your brain, your calves have to do their job. Then I do heel-to-toe walks. That's right, like you're walking a tightrope in your hallway, one foot in front of the other, slowly, carefully. This strengthens your stabilizer muscles and improves your balance more than any fancy treadmill ever could. Then I sit down and do seated leg extensions. Lift the right foot, hold for 3 seconds, lower it down, switch sides. This one helps with joint strength and knee support, especially if stairs are your nemesis. And finally, I finish with ankle circles, 10 each direction. Why? Because ankle mobility is one of the first things we lose with age, and it's one of the biggest contributors to falls. Don't believe me? Try walking on a stiff ankle and see how it throws off your entire balance. Now here's the part that matters. I do this every single morning, without fail, even on holidays, even when I don't feel like it. 7 minutes, no excuses. Because I realized something along the way. The body rewards consistency, not intensity. You don't need to sweat buckets or lift weights to keep your legs strong. You need to remind your body daily that movement matters. Within a few weeks of doing this, I noticed a shift. My steps felt lighter. My knees cracked less. I could stand up from a chair without bracing. I could carry a bag of groceries without holding my breath. My legs came back to life. And not because I trained like an athlete, but because I treated my body like something worth taking care of. There are 2 kinds of aging, passive and active. Passive aging happens when you sit, shrink, and surrender. Active aging happens when you stand, stretch, and strengthen, even in small, humble ways. I chose the second one, and it's why I'm not in a wheelchair today. So if you're watching this and thinking, I don't have the energy, let me say this gently. You don't wait for energy to move. You move to create energy. 7 minutes, every morning, no matter what. That's how you win your legs back. That's how you walk into your future, not with fear, but with force. There was a time I believed life after 80 meant shrinking. Shrinking dreams, shrinking strength, shrinking circles of people who called you by your first name. I don't believe that anymore. I believe aging is the greatest comeback story never told. Because when I was told I'd be in a wheelchair by 80, I didn't just hear a medical opinion. I heard a challenge, and it lit something in me that I didn't even know was still there. A fire. Not to fight age, but to partner with it. to give my body the food it actually wanted, not the junk I'd been fed by commercials. To move, not to impress anyone, but to feel alive. To wake up every day and ask, what can I still do? Instead of mourning what I've lost. And every morning that I put one foot in front of the other, I realize something powerful. I didn't avoid decline because I'm lucky. I reversed it because I stopped giving up on myself. Here's what I know now. Most people don't lose their strength because of age. They lose it because they stop using it. You don't need perfect knees. You need motion. You don't need flawless meals. You need consistency. You don't need to be 40 again. You just need to believe that 93 can be your prime. If you've ever felt like your best years are behind you, I'm proof they're not. Because I was supposed to be watching life pass by from a chair. Instead, I'm out here passing people on walking trails, waving to grandkids, and building raised garden beds that make my neighbors jealous. And the best part? I'm just getting started. But if you think this story is powerful, wait until you hear what I never eat anymore. Not because someone told me to, but because of what happened the last time I did.